Right, just a quick one. So today, again, another nice slow day, easing me into the new year, and mainly messing about getting my development environment up to date, and getting ready to start setting up the internet as the infrastructure as code uh, that I want to do for the house, for my home lab. Um, at the moment, that's fairly straightforward. I had a bit of a roadblock today. That Salt has a bug when dealing with the when dealing with Docker, in that the Docker Python interface was updated to 6 recently, fairly recently. And I remember I went through this at the end of last year and I'd forgotten about it. But basically, what happens is when I installed Salt and sort of the default Docker that is set up with Debian, it sets it up with the version 6.0.1 version of Docker Python. And unfortunately, that contains a breaking change, which means that the Salt Docker module doesn't work. So I had to after re-diagnosing it and refinding the bug. Basically, all it means is that I have to install 5.0.3 version of Docker Python, and then everything works fine. So that took a few minutes of messing about, re-diagnosing a fault. But this time, I've actually added comments into both the commit messages and to the file that handles the setup of Docker, to make sure that it's clear why I've installed Docker Python 5.0.3. I gather that when they release Salt 3006, this problem should be resolved and we should be able to use the latest Docker Python again. However, we shall see. Long and short of it is everything's working again now. There's a couple of additional things I'm going to mess around with. I use subtrees for some of the setup. It just makes life easier in many respects, but it does mean that you need to keep track of which directories are actually controlled by subtrees. And that's a bit of a dog's breakfast at the moment in Git. I gather there's some code in the source directory. I haven't looked at any of this. I know that there's the git subtree command, but it doesn't really keep track of which prefix directories are mapped to which modules, so far as I can tell anyway. So I need to just do a bit of digging around there. I've used submodules quite extensively in the past, but to be honest, they're a bit of a pain in the arse for most applications, and the subtree approach seems cleaner for what I want to do. That said, I think there are better ways of doing what I want to do anyway, but I'll worry about that later. At the moment, it's yeah, it's an interesting exercise to go through anyway, and learn a bit more about the internals of Git. So yeah, so that's it really. There's nothing very exciting. yeah, nothing very exciting to say, other than a bit of a bookkeeping thing. So basically what I've done is I've updated the base development environment. And the way I've organized the way this works is there's a base development environment that kind of provides the mechanisms for setting up individual projects, and then you specify individual projects on top of that. So the individual project we're going to do first is looking at the installation of Gitea onto server, and that means, as I was rambling on yesterday, that we're going to look at installing Git, the Gitea, and the Postgres database, and then look at things like making sure that the firewall's set correctly so that we've got good security along all the way. Then we'll look at things like secrets management, because obviously when you're accessing a Postgres database, you can have a username and password to deal with. And then once I've got the basics set up, the next step is to set up a single sign-on system. Although maybe I won't bother with that for the home lab. Yeah, maybe I'll leave that for the home lab. Yeah, I'll forget about that. I'll get Gitea set up, and once I've got the test system set up, I'll start writing. Well, it's a sort of chicken and egg problem really, because I've got to get the Gitea project set up and working, and get it set up as being the main artifact repository as well for some of the basic stuff, because that then allows me to configure the rest of the system, and the rest of the system is things like a CI/CD system, one element of which is keeping the Gitea stuff up to date. So you can see there's a sort of chicken and egg problem. I need the repository to start setting up the configuration, but I need the configuration set up for the CI/CD so that I can generate all the stuff for the Gitea. Yeah? So it's chicken and egg. And then all of the stuff that I'm currently doing on GitLab, a lot of that I then migrate. I might migrate the private stuff anyway to the local Gitea. And then we'll talk about Git repositories and their relationships. And the sort of the tension between me using GitLab for some things and Gitea for others. So that my local system versus a public repository. Yeah. All starts to get complicated quickly. Anyway, right, that's it for tonight. I don't want to hang around too long. Got things to do.